Hey everybody, this is Rick Lumack and Bowinn and we are just leaving the legislature. Oh, and look behind us, we have a special guest, David Eby.
Hello.
David Eby, Attorney General of the whole province.
He's very tall, so we can't get him in frame.
Don't see his face.
So we had a very exciting week this week. We had a number of very important things happening. Legalization of cannabis. We had an emergency debate in the legislature on climate change with the new IPCC report.
And Rick, you did you made a very good statement in the House on climate change. I was very impressed.
Yeah, it was.
Did you see his statement?
No, I didn't.
I'm just putting Dave on the spot. He's very busy.
That was me patting you guys on the back. You did a great job.
Yeah. So what was your highlight of this week, Bowinn?
You know what? I'm really excited about the speculation tax, actually. I think that the Ministry of Finance has done a fantastic job putting a very complex piece of legislation together in a way that actually addresses the concerns that people have about speculation in our markets. So the speculation tax, which is on the table right now, will allow for government to, how do I say this? So if a person has more than one home and they leave their second home empty, they could be subject to a speculation tax. But having said that, there are a lot of good reasons why British Columbians might need a second home in a metropolitan area. And so the speculation tax bill actually includes a lot of exemptions that allows for people who need a second home for legitimate reasons. For instance, maybe they live in the northern BC, but they have a medical condition that requires for them to be close to a metropolitan hospital on a regular basis. The speculation tax actually provides exemptions for people who require a second home for that purpose. So there's lots of exemptions in there that cover real life situations while still being strong enough in order to target the kinds of vacant housing that we don't want to have existing in our metropolitan areas. Do you think that's fair?
Well, you know what I really like about it is the data collection part for government. Because a lot of people in my constituency have concerns about very low income neighborhoods in west side of Vancouver, West Vancouver, and parts of Metro that are they look quite affluent, very expensive homes, and yet people are reporting poverty level incomes. And so the question is, well, I don't understand if you have a poverty level income, how you're buying a $1 million house or a $2 million house. And this will enable the provincial government and, through information sharing agreements, the federal government, to start to match up real estate purchases with reported worldwide income and say, look, you're obviously not reporting your worldwide income, and do those necessary audits. I think that's something that will make a really significant difference, and I think that's really important because, look, we live in a globalized city in Vancouver. People earn income all over the world, and people need to report it. For tax purposes, and everyone's got to pay their fair share. So I think this is really a reflection and a modernization of tax codes, and I think it's where things are going to be going to catch up with our increasingly globalized world that we live in.
Now, I know a lot of people will often say, well, why don't you just add a foreign buyer's tax? Well, first off, we do have a foreign buyer's tax. It's 20% on the assessed value, the sale value of a home when they purchase it. But I guess one key thing to know about the foreign buyer's tax and speculation tax and some of the satellite families that you're describing, where you have families that live in BC, they have a worldwide income, but they're not declaring all of that income, is that a lot of them are actually Canadians and PRs, unfortunately. And so foreign buyer's tax doesn't actually address that.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is major legislation that's coming in and it's being debated right now. As I was saying earlier, we also had an emergency debate, and the first time I think we've ever had an emergency debate on climate change. The recent IPCC report is talking about how if we go above 1.5 degrees Celsius...
Are we going to go straight?
Okay.
Rick, really turning?
Let's look both ways, Rick.
See? Safety first.
Safety first.
Yeah. If we go above the 1.5 degrees Celsius, we're going to be in some big trouble here, and we got about 3 to 10 years of carbon that we can put into the atmosphere at current rates before we burn through that amount of carbon that we can put in. So we have to make some big changes, I believe, all over society and across the private sector, and cooperate with different levels of government and everything else. There's a lot that we need to do, and so Andrew Weaver introduced that motion for emergency debate, and getting the conversation started on that. So more to come. And there's Ann Kang.
We have another special guest, Anne.
Casual clothes, Ann.
What are you guys doing?
What was your highlight this
Live.
week?
Facebook Live right now.
Yeah.
Highlight, let's see. I don't know. Every day is a happy day.
Every day is a happy day for Anne. You
Yeah.
gave a 2-minute statement this week, didn't you?
I gave, yeah, it was on October is Library Month.
Oh, it's Library Month in October.
Yeah, so I dedicated that to 3 of my favorite librarians. One was my school librarian, and 2 were the chief librarians of Burnaby. One before and one right now.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So
And we met with the HEU staff, HEU hospital
Employees
employees.
Union, that's right.
Yeah.
Residential care aides and hospital workers, and they take care of our most vulnerable.
That's right. They do such a great job, and we're here just listening to what they have to say to us. And they were really happy that we gave a statement on their behalf, and that government's working with them and investing in $240 million over 3 years to hire new care aides for seniors and people who are critically ill.
That is a huge step forward.
It is.
That funding is expected to bring care levels up to 3.35 hours per resident by the
That's
end
right.
of in a couple of years. Is that
4
right?
years, yeah, and it has already started.
That's
So
fantastic.
it's seeing a lot of part-time positions like music therapist, physical therapist, you know, go from part-time to full-time.
And it's so overdue too, because when we first took over government, which was actually this day 15 months ago, it's our 15-month anniversary of forming government today. When we took over from the BC Liberals, they had actually left the province's residential care system in a state where over 91% of residential care homes in the province were not funded to sufficiently provide basic levels of care that seniors should get. So it's quite
Wow.
Yeah, it's important to know what the standards of care are, right? Like this means a bath a week was the standard, right?
incredible.
1 bath a week is the standard, but people weren't even getting that. I mean, it was totally unacceptable. This is some of the great work that Ann's done on seniors issues, and the Premier's really prioritized those issues
Well,
for all
that's-
those seniors watching on Facebook Live right
yeah,
now.
that's
At
right.
least for the grandchildren.
Yes.
Right. Dave, did you have any other highlights this week?
I thought the Premier's speech on climate change was really great. We all were in the house for it. I know people don't tend to rush out and watch the Hansard, but it was a really good speech. I thought he did a really solid job on it, and really communicated the passion about that. And the other exciting thing is the Premier said that he is absolutely willing to do a debate on TV about representation. You know, my role on PR is to not be involved on one side or the other of the campaign. And so I just think it's good to get public awareness up that both sides are going to have this debate, and people are going to be able to hear both sides, and ultimately British Columbians will be able to decide what's best for them. The ballots will be mailed out, and I know there's questions about Canada Post strike. It happened before with the HST referendum, and the Chief Electoral Officer extended deadlines so that everyone could get their HST ballots in. So the Chief Electoral Officer has the tools that he needs if that's what happens, but hopefully Canada Post is able to resolve those things too. It's pretty early days in that dispute.
So
Really exciting.
there you go. It's a snippet of some of the things that happened this week at the Legislature, and we'll if it's not raining, we'll do this again next week at 6 o'clock on Thursday, and so we'll see you then.
Bye.
See you later.